John Doe Radio.
Let's see some big bucks. Big bucks. Stop it all.
One by jet, two by gas. The Rammies are coming to steal your stash.
JDR News.
The human brain is made for thinking, not pubic experiment. It's hardly a tinker toy or experimenting. It's not dealing with drugs.
Why do we talk about marijuana? It's the single biggest drug that is a source of some confusion.
This is really about educating the public about the fact that marijuana is a less harmful drug.
Marijuana, that's to get high.
You can be as high as you want.
Prohibition of marijuana over the last 71 years has not actually prevented you from using marijuana.
You feel weak.
Closer to winning the war.
I do believe there have been some successes.
We will never arrest our way out of this problem.
Welcome to the John Doe Radio Show. I'm your host, John Doe, JDR News Live Daily. We are here on a Thursday. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're recording the show a little bit early, so whatever time it is when you're listening to us, hope it is a fantastic time. Hopefully you're having a beautiful holiday season, all that good shiz. Good jazz. We got a ton of news to get to, so I should probably just ram into it and not ramble on a long time at the very beginning. So, hopefully you're as stony as I am. I went and took a nice bowl before I started the show, a bowl specifically from Scott Reach and Rare Dankness and the good friends over there. If you get a chance and you know it all of Rare Dankness or you know it all of Scott Reach, head to his Facebook page. And his best friend lost their daughter. And I guess it was something to do with like salmonella or something like that. Just some weird bacteria type disease. Anyway, she passed away after a couple weeks in the hospital and suffering, which I can't even imagine to lose a kid. So if you know of anything about Scott Reach, you know of anything about Rare Dankness, head over to Scott's Facebook page or the Instagram for Rare Dankness, and on there is a GoFundMe to help out Scott's best friends get this taken care of, get their family back to where they kind of need to be. Because like he's mentioned, you go through, as a lot of medical marijuana patients have experienced, you go through a lot of pain and suffering, and then after all that pain and suffering, you're left with quite a big bill at the end of all of it. Healthcare not being cheap, anything else that goes along with that, super expensive, and on top of all that, to lose someone and to be left with that, it's just a horrible situation. So if you get a chance, head over there and help support Scott. And how much worse timing? I mean, shut up, Tim. There's never good timing for that. But I mean, it is what? Today is December 17th. Holidays, it's just rough. Rough shiz. Big thanks to our sponsors here at the John Doe Radio Show. Weedbiz.net, one of our fantastic hosts of our shows online. I guess you could say you get our show because of Weedbiz.net, and you get our show because of your graphics. URGRAFIX.com. Check them out on Facebook, all right?
You're now listening to Billet Beats.
We cannot forget the good people over at usacannabis.consulting. If you need somebody, a company, somebody that you trust to guide you through this cannabis process, you need someone that knows what they're talking about, can help you get regulated, can help you build out your business, not only construction-wise, but brand it. Holler at them, usacannabis.consulting. Our good friends Kyle Allen over there. They'll take care of you. Tell them that JDR sent you. Today in news, another Colorado cannabis recall, 2 of them yesterday. I think we got to one of them on the show that we recorded yesterday. There was one after we released the show. I think it came around at like 7, 8, 9 o'clock last night. So we'll talk about that. It is the 14th recall in 14 weeks. Delaware decriminalization goes into effect this Friday. Pittsburgh City Council's got one more vote to decriminalize cannabis. They voted yesterday to approve a brand new ordinance that basically shoves cannabis down to the bottom of the list of things that police should be going after. Kind of like what happened here in Colorado and Denver and a bunch of other places. Anyway, we'll read that here. Palm Beach, Florida sheriffs are going to continue to arrest cannabis offenders despite decriminalization there. We'll tell you the details about that because that's an interesting story, and it's not specifically that they're never going to stop. We'll get into it. Canadian legalization, all put together in one word, equals Canadius. Add another one to the JDR dictionary. By the way, what's up, Encounter Zero? What's up, Yellow on a Cake? Thank you guys for joining us in the chat room. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the holidays. Hopefully it is a warm time where you're at. Freaking cold-ass day here in Colorado. And women and weed. So we'll see which one of those stories we get to, which one of them will be left off tomorrow. Maybe we'll get to all of them. Who knows? It's just kind of one of those farkit days, man. One of those frustrating days that a lot of shit just didn't go right. Things not coming together, you know. I mean, generally, I've been pretty happy, you know. I don't bitch here on the John Doe Radio Show too much like I used to, you know. It's not like a daily Dear Diary session or a Facebook, you know, pull out the diary and start writing into it type session. We don't really get into that anymore here on the JDR. But today, man, fuck it. So goddamn painful today to get through. Worst part of it, which that's saying that it was an absolutely horrible day when I guess on the scale of things, it was by far not the worst day that I've ever had. And I really shouldn't complain, but how are you not going to complain when you're sitting on damn hold in the government offices for an hour and a half having to deal with their crap? No one answers the damn phone. I mean, you get transferred maybe once or twice, and it ends up being, you know, the same department every time because it's the only department that can help you out. And that shiz just sat and rang for an hour and a half. And I just read news stories, caught up on some possible leads and other things, played a little bit of video games. I mean, what the hell else are you going to do? That's when you jump into your passion and we open up the lines, or hopefully soon open up the lines. I don't know where that came from. Random firing of the neurons in the brain there. Hopefully soon we will have a new studio back up and back with the Adam Dunn Show and all those guys. A little bit more of a crowdfunding type situation to where, you know, the live show that we have, we'll be able to take some call-ins and other stuff like that. That's what I was going from there with that. But turn on the broadcast, connect with you guys, have a good time. Hopefully you're having a fantastic day. That's why I try and put that out there as much as I possibly can. That's here nor there. We're talking about news, god damn it. I had a bitch for a minute. Denver has issued the 14th pesticide-rooted recall on marijuana products in as many weeks on Wednesday, this time involving the voluntary recall of certain Caviar Kings branded pre-roll joints and hash oil-loaded vape pen cartridges made by Neos. The recalled products were made with the contaminated plant material purchased from marijuana business River Rocks Cultivation Facility, according to the Denver Department of Environmental Health. The recall affects 5,825 individual items, including 3 strains of Neos branded vape pen oils, Dark Star, Ghost Train Haze, and Chem Haze, and Caviar Kings tea cones sold medically and recreationally at Colorado stores. Denver said the products tested positive for a potentially dangerous pesticide, imidacloprid, and myclobutanil. Yay! You get a gold star for making it through the 10-point words. Thumbs up on that one. Both of which are banned for use on cannabis by the Colorado Department of Agriculture. Exact batch numbers for consumers wanting to see if they've purchased any pesticides tainted by products are listed in the Denver's press release, which, by the way, you could also find these press releases on the Colorado Department of Environmental Health's website, or you can just Google them. And the Denver Post is probably your best bet to find out, you know, what's been recalled, the 14 different recalls, and which batch numbers on that good shiz. They do have on their news stories usually a link to the original story with recalls that they've kept updated. So an interesting point about this whole situation is that, and I think they talk about it at the bottom of the story. Yeah, we'll just wait, because I kind of knew about this before, but the story explains it here fantastically. Exact batch numbers, blah, 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 blah. RevTech, the licensed marijuana company behind the Neos and Caviar Kings brands, told The Cannabis, which this story is from, courtesy The Cannabis, Denver Post's pro-marijuana print. Pro-marijuana publication. Damn it. Told The Cannabis that it had placed too much trust in the cultivation of companies that sell raw marijuana materials. I think there's quite a few people that can explain that. Here's another thing, though, before we get into this even more. Why are these companies, again, I just realized that I was probably beating a dead horse if I were to go off about this again, because you've had how much time to test the product on your shelves and to go back and go through all your records, Jesus, man. At this point in time, it's very, very, very irresponsible for any of these companies to be having recalls. Because if you really, really, really were smart, how many times are we going to use really here? It's just incredibly irresponsible. If you were smart and you were the owner of a business, you would go out and make sure that all of your products that were out on shelves that are pre-requirement of testing, and something that you need to maybe find out if it tests positive on. If you don't know, if it's that question, it's something that you should probably do. I mean, I figure if you have the disposable income with your company, that the amount of recalls here, with the amount of recalls that we've had, that you could just throw away all that cash and throw away all that product, it makes sense for you to get ahead of it and just test them for yourselves. And if a situation is fucked up, and I mean, that's, I guess, what's kind of happened here, maybe. It's just, it shouldn't be happening right now. It should have happened months ago. So, one of those growing pain situations. And I guess you could say, all right, it's the first time kind of through this shiz. We're treading through water that's never been gone through here. We're at the deep end of the pool. Sometimes this crap is going to kind of happen and maybe keep happening and get to take a few smacks in the face to be able to correct. And it's already drawing attention across the country. Oregon already looking at Colorado like, God dang, I hope we don't run into this same situation. And I guess if there's anything positive that comes out of this, it's that, number one, the products are going to get better, too. But also, number two, that these recalls and these lessons we're learning are going to be taught to other states. California probably not going to have to worry once they get legalization, because there's going to be testing put into place, and Oregon, Washington, everybody. It's just going to happen. It's the way that it just, like I said before, it's the biggest change that we're probably going to see here in the regulated cannabis industry. In my opinion, I don't know. It's just, to me, it changes the entire game as far as branding, and currently right now, there's nothing else that's happening that's bigger. That's the biggest change. I don't I kind of say that wrong. It's not exactly what I mean. Well, then say what you mean, goddammit. I will. Basically, until this were to go into place, from the time that we knew that testing was going to be something that you had to do, until we got comfortable with it, in my opinion, it was going to be by far the biggest issue that we're facing in cannabis regulation, here in Colorado specifically. And it has been. And it should have been an issue longer than it has been. And it would have been if these companies would have sent their products in for testing when everybody introduced this idea. You know what I'm saying? Then back to this news story. This is Nate Wilson, RevTech's Director of Operations, talking. We purposely source from grow facilities that claim organic processing. River Rock used to be known as organic, and once we made a strong relationship with them, we felt that we had organic bud, but they lied to us. And we really are upset because we pride ourselves on having organic bud. River Rock Cannabis was formerly known as River Rock Organic Medical Cannabis. The company changed its name and its signs, promotional items, and T-shirts this fall after learning that the Colorado Attorney General's office was investigating marijuana businesses over concerns the word organic might be misleading to customers. River Rock released a statement to the cannabis saying, "We regret the situation and have taken this opportunity to renew our commitment to producing quality cannabis products." I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to say here, or what I'm not quite sure what I can say here, because I do have a lot of friends that worked at River Rock, and I did hear from a few of them today. Specifically, one really good friend who was a grower at River Rock. And I don't think it's necessarily, I don't know how many people's faults it is. So that's all I can say. I can't say much anymore. I got to protect the sanctity of friendship and private messages without saying you could talk about this. Especially with my man. But the point being, there's been a lot of question. River Rock has been kind of, I don't know. I don't want to talk shit here because I'm not talking shit, but if you want to get into it about what companies have been, frustrated with the consumers have been frustrated with, River Rock's definitely something that I've heard back that people have been frustrated with about products, and I don't know, it just sucks to hear that they're one of the companies that has had recalls. And here's the thing. This source material is from River Rock. So these two companies that made these recalls got that material from River Rock. Now, River Rock probably is sold to more than just these two companies. So our continuation of this weekly segment of This Week in Recalls is almost guaranteed. We'll probably wake up again Monday morning, Tuesday, have more and more recalls of this because a lot of these companies that were issuing out this material and was being sold out there, just basically a lot of people out there were using pesticides they probably shouldn't have been using. And what's crazy is that there are people, I'm not going to name names, I'm not going to point fingers, but there's people that I've been in backroom conversations, hanging out with people, overhearing things through the grapevine or whatever, that, and even officially have argued that some of these pesticides and the things that the Department of Health and Environment is saying are unsafe, they're arguing in some points that it hasn't been tested on cannabis. The cannabis hasn't been tested on humans with this in it. And this specifically, they blah, 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 blah. And they've tried to spin it so that, that their use of these pesticides is somewhat justified in a way or another, or at least trying to cover their tracks. And I guess it's one way to go about things, but it's not going to go over very well here in the cannabis community. It might go well in some other industry. But it's just not going to happen here. It's too grassroots. Too many people that'll basically, you don't even have to call for a boycott here in our cannabis industry. People just know. You know what I'm saying? It just becomes a certain thing where it's like jank products and super custy products and other things. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that. Talking in too much vagueness here. And this is what River Rock is saying also with this whole thing. In late 2014, a former grower applied pest treatments on a batch of cannabis that has since been prohibited by the Department of Agriculture. Both this grower and the former chief operations officer responsible for cultivation have left River Rock as early as 2015. Customers with listed products should dispose of them, return them to the point of purchase, or holler at RevTech. Like I said, it's harder to get into this more. I would say that it's pretty accurate that what they're saying in this statement, I mean, if they've chosen to correct their ways, this statement, from what I've understand, has pretty much been confirmed. Both the grower and the former chief operations officer, who may have been the more responsible. Let's just say I agree with that statement. All right, Delaware. Something we haven't really followed and I guess didn't really catch on to until now because we haven't been doing, we've been doing news for about a month and a half now. And we weren't following news too closely on the previous JDRs on the Sunday shows with bikes, so we missed this whole Delaware situation. I didn't even know this was going on until today. Possession of small amounts of marijuana becomes legal starting Friday in Delaware, which joins 18 other states that have removed criminal penalties for carrying the drug. 4 states in the District of Columbia have legalized recreational blah, 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 blah. Same thing we read every day. Delaware state legislature in June passed a bill removing harsh criminal penalties for simple possession of up to an ounce of the drug, which had previously been punishable by up to 3 months in jail. It's now become a civil violation with a fine, much like a traffic ticket. Delaware's marijuana policy is about to become a lot more reasonable, said Karen O'Keefe, who lobbied for the bill as state policies director for the Marijuana Policy Project, a Washington, D.C.-based group that works to reform cannabis laws. I did get to see Mason Tvert last week at the awards ceremony, who, if y'all know, pretty much responsible for legalization here in Colorado, bringing everybody together to make it happen. But he is also the spokesman for the Marijuana Policy Project. I don't know, I just thought I'd mention it. He's a good guy. He's a good guy, man. I was glad to see him. Most people agree adults should not face jail time or life-altering consequences of a criminal record just for possessing a substance that is safer than alcohol. Taxpayers certainly don't want to foot the bill for it, and fortunately, they will not have to any longer. However, there are still a number of circumstances under which Delaware police can arrest a person for having marijuana. Smoking cannabis in public is still a misdemeanor, punishable by less than a year in jail. People should do this in their own homes. State Senator Margaret Rose Henry, a Democrat who helped sponsor the bill, told local news website Delaware Online earlier, it should not be done in cars. It should not be done in it should be done in the privacy of your own home. Is it just me, or are all the beds like super loud today? Oh, maybe it's kind of just chilled. I'm in this chilled, laid back, don't give a fark mood this afternoon, because I do not want this to carry on to tomorrow. So maybe that's why. It's just like overpowering music there for a second. Sometimes it is too loud, but then sometimes we got enough energy and steam and oomph. We need to be listening to like old school 90s like gangsta rap beats right now. That's the feeling. That's the feels that we get right now. Maybe that's what we do after the show. Let's flip on some Dr. Dre. Anyway. Let's see here. Where was I at? However, there's still a number of circumstances. Police can still arrest you. O'Keefe described the decriminalization lobby's negotiations with lawmakers that left in the final draft some provisions police had wanted, especially the ability to continue a search with a person caught with marijuana, even though possession will no longer be a criminal offense. Like, how the hell does that freaking fly? How does that make sense in anybody's mind besides a police officer that would like to do anything they can to fark up your couch? And a prosecution that would like to have anything they can to fark up your couch. Like, if it's legal, Jesus criminy. Yeah, we're going to use this legal situation to justify search and seizure. No, it doesn't work. And what sucks is that there's a lot of people that wouldn't really look at that and question it because the cops are just so damn scary. You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously. You probably think twice at this point in time if you're approached by a cop or if a cop tries and pushes himself onto you in a certain way. I don't know. It seems like the most of us, the majority of us, would maybe be like, crap. I might have to listen to what he's saying, otherwise he might shoot me in my head. Damn it. And, in a situation, like I saw a video yesterday where the cop accidentally shot this dude. There's a video online. Guy's driving drunk, cops chasing after him, and the dude rolls the car over. Wife flies out of the vehicle and dies. That's why you shouldn't drink and drive, because people die. But this dude's crawling out of the window, and this cop runs up to him, and pulls out his gun and points it at him and just pops him. Like one time. Pop. And he said it was an accident, that it discharged accidentally. That doesn't look like an accident, but here's the deal. If a cop is going to shoot you, he's probably going to empty his clip into you. So I might believe it. I kind of believe that guy shot him on an accident. As if it weren't, be like 13 shots. God. I don't even want to be next to a cop ever again. Ever. Any situation that you need the police in is just a horrible situation. I'm jealous of people that can stand next to cops and not have like their anxiety go through the roof. And it gets to a point where you're like, man, I hope I really don't do something stupid because I'm so freaked out right now. You know? You're like, I do not trust myself right now around these people. I need to leave. Hey, at least you know. At least you have that situation where the flag goes off and the trigger goes off inside your dome and you can walk out. Nah, this ain't happening. I do not trust this motherfucker right here. He will do something stupid. I am getting him out of here. The little man upstairs hits the eject button, and there you go. Today is an awesome show. It's beautiful. Getting my mind off of shiz, thinking about crazy stuff. Being super stony with you guys. Where's the rest of the story at? I gotta quit saying too, man. One of them things I was listening back yesterday, and I'm like, dude, can you say more goddamn times before you try to get back to a story? It's like if we were playing poker, it would be my tell, because it's like right when we're about ready to get back to a story, I gotta be like, Great. There's also a bit of, that's the other one. Fucking Joe Rogan was talking about this the other day. That's why it's got me thinking about it. Because it's a thing that people do to be able to save time, you know, so they can think of the proper thing to be able to say. It's a space marker. Me, when I usually try to save time or I'm trying to think of things, I just blabble on with words that don't really make sense when they're put together or make up words. That's another fantastic badge of the JDR. Instead of using those ums, it's really my signature. So if you listen real closely, those things that don't really make sense at the beginning of the sentences and then it kind of gets to the point, yeah, that's just me thinking. Just me trying to fire up the brain. Have that dude upstairs feed the gerbil. Have the gerbil wheel start turning. Another thing today that really pissed me off. God dang it. What a stupid asshats that are trying to ruin Star Wars. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, is it some people's purpose in life just to enjoy watching the pain of others? I mean, come on, man. If life were only so difficult. All right, and we'll finish out this news report. Decriminalization has been a stepping stone to legalization and recreation. Pot use in other other states. Stones. Delaware law enforcement officials on Thursday expressed concerns that many state residents might overestimate the extent of the decrim law. There will be some confusion because people may think marijuana is legal now, and that is not the case, Newcastle County Police Chief Elmer Setting told Delaware Online. Hopefully, they read and understand the law. Delaware is decriminalizing the drug in what could be a banner year for marijuana policy reform. Legalization laws and ballot initiatives on the horizon in several states, including California, Maine, Massachusetts, Nevada. Each state that has lifted criminal penalties for possession and small amounts of pot, decrim has served as an herald to an end of prohibition. Not really herald, but herald. We're heralding in the time where prohibition is no longer effective. Ah, crap. Where's this? All right, here we go. Pittsburgh yesterday moved on to decriminalization 2. Now that wait, that's the middle of the article. We don't want to start there. Channel 11 News was there on Tuesday as scores of supporters packed a council hearing there's so many ads on this news page that it splits up the news article into like 11 different categories, 11 different paragraphs. There's links in the middle of the news, a video, and like I said, ads. It took me 4 times to restart this damn thing to realize, dude, hey, that's not the right place to start. A plan to decriminalize small amounts of marijuana passed its first vote Wednesday in Pittsburgh City Council. Channel 11 News, you already heard that one. Now that it's passed the initial vote, council must formally approve it in another vote, which is expected to pass. As Mayor Bill Peduto said, he'll sign it. If the ordinance passes, police could be fining people $25 to $100 and seize the drug as long as the person has less than 30 grams of marijuana. So you can have like an ounce and a couple grams, and you're good to go. People could have about 8 grams of hash. Doesn't say specifically here, and I didn't read the ordinance before this news article, so I apologize for that. It says about 8 grams of hash, so I figure if you have between 7 and 7.5 grams of hash would probably be the safe bet to go there, because you know they always weigh your baggie or a container. God, that would suck if those silicone containers now that they have. You got like a half gram of hash inside the silicone container, and then this thing's like 8 grams. He throws it on the scale. Oh, you've got 8.5 grams of hash in this mamma jamma. Can't be having that. Which is really seems like I would be making fun of police there or making fun of a situation, but no, that is a serious goddamn situation. Bags, packaging, all weighed in there. Dirt, roots, fark it, stems, who cares? Add it to the mix. If the ordinance passes, police could fine, like I said, $25 to $100, 30 grams and 8 grams of hash. Supporters say the law would prevent people from having a criminal record for minor offenses that some would argue disproportionately affect black people. Pittsburgh's police chief is behind the move to decriminalization of marijuana, does not mean legalization. It's funny how with all these decrim efforts and with states that have legalized cannabis, that these places got to be like, hey now, this is not legalization. Do not be all getting crazy with this shit. This is just decriminalization, all right? Get your freaking shiz all up in an uproar. Calm down now. But like they said in that previous article, usually the places that have decriminalized have, at a start, have moved on to be pretty damn positive, or I should say pretty quick after decrim to move forward with some sort of legalization or positive shiz there, or whatever. You know what I'm saying. All that good shiz. Let me check the chat real fast, see if anybody's got anything to say. You guys having a good time chilling in the chat? By the way, you can join us on our chat, youtube.com/JohnDoeRadio/live when we are live recording the show. If you want to come in, give some feedback. Plus, it makes it a little bit funner to record the live show. I could just sit back and record this show with not going live and streaming, but that wouldn't be too futuristic. There wouldn't be any video anywhere. News. Oh, yeah, Encounter Zero. Sadly, mostly heroin. Any more in Pennsylvania? Yeah, man, it's crazy to hear the heroin stories. And we talked yesterday about the high school drug use situation, with cannabis being really the only thing that has stayed steady for cannabis use, hasn't gone up, which yesterday, the one thing I kind of got wrong and I didn't make a point to say was that people were trying to spin this and making it seem like... The point being with all this is that in the places where legalization has happened, and overall this specific report for high schoolers across the nation, a lot of the drug wars and a lot of the dare work anti-drug people, their position has been through history that if we legalize cannabis, if we move forward and lighten regulations, lessen the punishment for this, then our kids are going to start using cannabis tenfold, that it's going to lead to more and more use and abuse. And that report we read yesterday, which says that, kids are still smoking cannabis more. Kids are smoking cannabis more than cigarettes. Cigarettes falling, heroin use falling, which is just crazy to think. Like I said, with kids using heroin in high school, I can't even imagine. But all use falling across the board except for cannabis. Now, maybe you could spin that and say, yeah, well, because of all the situations with legalization and pro-cannabis, that's why it didn't fall. So we're still losing here. Everything else is success, but this has failed. I can see that, but no, actually, we're winning this. Because everything that you've said is actually not happening. Throw it out the door. And in fact, I would argue that the reason why cannabis use in teens is not falling is because they're kind of testing the waters a little bit. They've been told we've been told for generations and generations that heroin is just the same as cannabis, that cocaine just the same as cannabis. Which, by the way, cocaine is not even in the same damn category as cannabis, in a lesser drug category than weed. But no, weed is this huge killer and we can't handle it. So you can see why kids would maybe think that, hey, it's this horrible thing. I might test this water. It's not what people say it is. Anyway. God, rambling on there. It's important just to note that... hold on here. I gotta get back to this news story before I ramble on too much. It's just important to note that more and more, as we do legalize, as we do decriminalize all these, in all these places, not only is our crime rates going down, but income in these areas, the betterment of areas, it's just a positive direction. You can't really point anywhere of negativity besides maybe here in Colorado where it's like, oh, the rent is going through the roof, all that stuff. But I mean, is that really the most horrible thing that could be happening? No. The murders aren't going up. Crazy arrests and weird spikes in criminal activity are not going up. And it's not like you introduce something into the mix. You have a brand new industry. You have a brand new product that's out there, or at least something that's gaining a lot of spotlight, like cannabis is. Name something that's not going to have some stupid crime attached to it, or there's not going to be criminals involved with something. And it's impossible to say that cannabis is not going to have something, not have reports on the news, and not be involved in crime. It's just going to happen. It's an industry. It's a product. Period. End of story. Point is, there hasn't been an excess of it. And plenty of sheriffs throughout the United States saying, hey, we've had legalization. We've had medical marijuana in these places. We've had shops open up all along these blocks. And what we've seen in these places is less crime. And formerly abandoned buildings being filled up with businesses that are prosperous, bringing in other businesses that are prosperous. I mean, it's not like you say like, there's that word again, Broadsterdam here in Colorado. Tons of shops that were antique shops that were starting to close quite a bit. Antiquing becoming less and less popular with some people. It was just something that, that area needed some sort of spike to it, and it got it with cannabis. And cannabis shops weren't the only thing to go into that area. Brand new restaurants, there's brand new roads in that area. It's just a positive thing. And I can't think of anybody, anywhere that has seen a horrible, that can say that what we're doing with reform is this horrible, horrible idea, and give us any good reason why it was a horrible idea. Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office going to continue arresting people caught with small amounts of marijuana until it can review an ordinance passed by county commissioners decriminalizing the drug. According to a statement issued Wednesday, commissioners voted 4-1 this week to allow deputies to issue a $100 civil violation similar to a traffic ticket for possession of less than 20 grams of marijuana. 20 grams, about 3/4 of an ounce, they say here in this. They go. It's funny. We're just going to break it down for you. Law enforcement, though, can continue to arrest violators under state law. That's what the Sheriff's Office intends to do while it's reviewing the ordinance. According to the statement, Sheriff's Office spokeswoman Terry Barbara didn't respond to requests of how long it would take and what it will entail to go through and review this brand new rule. Let's just say that's a stall tactic. I don't think anybody's fooled too much by that. Possession of less than 20 grams of marijuana in Florida is a misdemeanor offense punishable by up to a year in prison and a $1,000 fine. Sheriff Rick Bradshaw could not be reached for comment. Ordinance applies to unincorporated Palm Beach County. Cities would have the ability to opt out if they choose. Representatives from the sheriff's office attended at least 2 of the meetings held during the early stages of the ordinance, but the sheriff's office did not participate in its drafting. Deputy County Administrator John Van Arnhem said during Tuesday's meeting, "We don't know specifically how the sheriff is going to implement this and what type of training he is going to do. Florida Sheriff's Association does not have a position on ordinances decriminalizing possession of marijuana, which has also been passed in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. Under existing practices, someone caught with a small amount of cannabis in Palm Beach County is arrested or given a notice to appear in court. First-time or low-level offenders often receive probation or are allowed to enter a diversion program, such as drug treatment, as an alternative to spending more time in jail. The ordinance will become effective once it's filed with the state, probably by the end of the year. Violators could elect to do 10 hours of community service in lieu of paying the fine. Citations can only be issued twice, and repeat violators would face arrest. According to the ordinance, Commissioner Steve Abrams, who voted for the ordinance, said he's optimistic the sheriffs will implement the changes. Typically, when county adopts an ordinance that needs to be implemented by the sheriff, we work cooperatively together. So maybe, who knows, it's not saying no, that we're not going to agree with you. It's saying, hey, we're going to look into this. And if it fits with something that makes sense, which obviously it should make sense, but if it makes sense to them, then I'm sure that's something they'll move forward with. Which would be a good idea. Colorado Attorney General, yesterday we talked about this federal statement that was issued that told the Supreme Court of the United States to stay out of the legalized fight in Colorado. Because Oklahoma and Nebraska trying to come in and fuck our dang old couches and shut down things going on here. In layman's terms, in less layman's terms, I guess you should say. Not that dang old redneck terms. Nebraska and Oklahoma hate what we're doing because there's too much weed flowing from Colorado into their states. So they would like to stop the fun here. The feds told them that they should shut the fuck up, which is great and fantastic, but like I explained to you yesterday, and then a news article comes out today agreeing with my position on this. It's saying, you know what, the feds are not necessarily agreeing 100% with the cannabis laws, even though they are. They're agreeing with this law that's been put into place with the state. They're not saying that they want to federally legalize cannabis and that that's going to be the next big thing. It's a state rights issue. And the Obama administration was elected. One of his things that he ran on was that he agreed with state rights and he was going to push state rights forward. And you can argue whatever topic here and there that he hasn't been positive with state rights on. Bottom line is we still have a system of sales and retail and medical marijuana here in Colorado and California and other places. He hasn't come in and interrupted any of that shit. So when it comes to cannabis, he's been pretty strong on state rights. Could have been stronger. But the whole thing with states' rights is that it's up to us to be able to work this out, up to us to test the waters, form a system that actually works, and then that system starts to spread into the other states. And then the feds start to take notice and say, hey, this is maybe the right thing that we should do, and implement that law. At least that is my extremely basic understanding of how states' rights work. And I think it's pretty much as basic as that. But Nebraska and Oklahoma don't think it should be that way. And like I said yesterday, our attorney general here in Colorado saying we wish they would have been a little bit more exploratory in their suggestion to the Supreme Court to not take up this cannabis case. To say, hey, because they basically what the Fed said is that just because that this is a cannabis situation Just because this is marijuana and it has some sort of political vibe in it and all this craziness surrounding it, it doesn't take away from the fact that it's still a states' rights issue and it's not something that the Supreme Court of the United States really should get involved with at this point. It's not. Period. And I don't think they will rule on it. You know what I'm saying? If they do rule on it, who knows what kind of can of worms that could open. I mean, if they ruled positively on it, who knows? Could open a door to floodgates for everybody in the nation to start implementing this type of situation. I just don't think, I don't know. If it doesn't definitively change a law or doesn't definitively change a right throughout the United States, then I don't think the Supreme Court takes shiz up like that. But I could be wrong. I'm not a goddamn lawyer. I'm not a U.S. government scholar. I'm just John Doe, goddammit, sitting here reading the news. Giving you my opinion. Having a monologue. If this were anybody else or any other situation, there might be people coming in to strap a straitjacket on you. Just talking to yourself into a microphone. I swear to God there's people on the other line listening. I swear to you. Do not lock me up. Man, what are we on today? Yesterday's show and today's show, two completely different animals in themselves. I'm feeling decent about it, though. Letting the flow flow. Letting all the hate flow through me and out. Good. Let the hate flow through you. God damn it, I want to see Star Wars tonight. Maybe I'll hitchhike down the highway and crash one of the movies. I think that is a possibility. Colorado Attorney General Cynthia Kaufman is unimpressed with the U.S. Solicitor General's recent briefing urging the Supreme Court to not hear neighboring states' challenges to Colorado's recreational marijuana laws. By the way, I just go on record again saying today that I don't think Oklahoma is a neighboring state. I think Oklahoma is its own hell on earth. If you're in Oklahoma, get the fuck out of there. But I don't feel like they're just right out of that little reach. It's not our goddamn neighbor. Do not accept you as our neighbor. Put a big-ass privacy fence up in between us. Get the fuck on your own side of the fence, goddammit. In a statement released to the Cannabis, you stupid Oklahoma. You come over here again, I will punch you in your face, Oklahoma. Jimmy, come here. Jimmy, give me the stick. Yeah, that stick. No, the longest stick. Give me that stick. Oklahoma, I swear to God, if you come over here, I will stick you through this fence. That's how we feel here in Colorado. Ultimately, the Colorado Attorney General wants a more definitive statement of the federal government's marijuana policy. And like I said with the whole thing that they came across with yesterday, it didn't say anything about cannabis policy, just said that this was the wrong time to get the Supreme Court involved in shiz. But still, drug experts and me saying this is great news for Colorado, and it's an important procedural step. It's also important, and I don't know how much is going to matter for too much longer, depending on who we get into office in a year, which is really starting to make me nervous, because I swear to goodness, if Trump gets into office, he's going to try handing us all sticks, poke through the fence of the borders. And that's not joking. It's funny because it's true. But depending on who does get in office, who's the next presidential person that brings his presidential feelings and ideas to the table, I mean, the whole table could be flipped from that point on, and we could be dealing with a situation and lawsuits and raids and all kinds of craziness, just depending on like I said, who does get into office. I don't think Bernie Sanders is going to make that type of situation happen. I think we'll move forward with Bernie Sanders as far as legalization goes. I don't hold any other opinion besides he's probably closest person I would vote for at this point in time. But he's positive on cannabis. Probably the favorite candidate for that on that. Trump, I don't think anybody knows what the fuck Trump's going to do if he were to get in office. That is a scary type of situation. And Hillary, who, it'll probably be one of those three. I don't know. The Republican Party may have a mutiny, and Ted Cruz or somebody else may get put into place. It may be like one of those CIA-type operations where, you know, the head of Donald Trump is removed and Ted Cruz's head is put on in the meantime and swap them, and that's who we end up having to vote against. Anyway, it's probably going to be the three Trump, her, or Sanders, I should say. It's not Larry Sanders. So, Trump, by far the worst candidate in that, but who knows what we could be dealing with in the future. The idea is to get things solid as possible now. And it's great that we have a year left, but if the Obama administration at this point is not making it clear that they're trying to move forward in a more positive legalization type direction, I don't think it's going to happen within the next year unless he just drops the mic and says fire for everybody, ganja for everybody, spark up your balls. I mean, which could happen. I mean, it could. Last few months of Obama administration could be just a firework event. Just shit going off everywhere. Who knows? But all signs point to things just staying exactly the same that they are now, and basically having states battle it out with themselves, states within states. Another whole thing on states' rights, why Oklahoma and Nebraska have really nothing to say in this. If the federal government is not going to step in and try and stop what we're doing, I don't think Nebraska and Oklahoma can do anything about this. Jimmy, give me the stick. Jimmy, give me that stick. I swear to God, Oklahoma, I swear to God, if you poke your head through this one more time, I'm going to stick you in your eye. Son of a dang old bitch. I will get you. It's so hilarious. Crack myself up. But the more that we can solidify, the more that we can do what we do now and have states like Colorado, like Washington. Well, not like Washington. Damn it, I was thinking Oregon. I said Washington. Have states like Colorado and Oregon and possibly California next year create legitimate systems to retail cannabis and regulated across the board. Everybody's happy with it. That's why I don't throw Washington into the mix, because even though it is positive there, and you know, as much shit as I talk about Washington screwing things up, you still have a positive situation there that's better than a lot of other places. It needs to be corrected, and I guess you could define positive in many different ways, but it's not like Colorado, it's not like Oregon is turning out to be there's really not. California is not even really doing it either way. Colorado, period, end of story right now, is the only ones doing it in any way that would, I think, spread legalization across the country on a federal level. You know what I'm saying? Like the feds looking at us and seeing that, oh, it's actually this all-inclusive. It's not saying that anybody else couldn't do it. We're just the only ones that can do it right now. The only ones that are doing it right now. God, that was a jumbled mess to explain. Sorry about that. So, this article basically talks about a bunch of legal shiz, some boring stuff. Let's see here. Yesterday's filing was an important procedural step now that the federal government has formally stated its position on the lawsuit. The Supreme Court will decide in January whether it will allow for the case to go forward on behalf of the state of Colorado, whose interests this attorney represents. And I remind you, she's bummed that they didn't say, hey, we're pro-weed instead of pro-states' rights. She continues to be concerned. The Attorney General, is concerned about the public safety issues surrounding legalized marijuana and the risks it poses, but I will also continue to believe that this lawsuit is without legal basis and it's not the way to fix Americans' broken drug policy. Drug law expert Sam Kamen called the Solicitor General's brief great news for Colorado on Wednesday and seemed somewhat surprised at Kaufman's response on Thursday. I think she's underselling how good it was for the state. A law professor at the University of Denver said, If the Supreme Court does decide to hear the case, there is a lot in the Solicitor General's brief that Colorado could cut and paste into its own brief. There is very little that Oklahoma and Nebraska could. There's very little that you could do. You hear that? Stick, you bastard. Come over here. In December 2014, Nebraska and Oklahoma filed a lawsuit. Yeah. Fun times. Next story here is Justin Trudeau and his cannabis factory. Hold on here. Let me pull this up again. Again, thanks for hanging out with us here on JDR. If you've got any input, holler at me, johndoeradio@gmail.com. If you'd like to help support the show too, johndoeradio@gmail.com. I think we got another story or two. What time is it? What do we got? 56 minutes here. Should we leave the cannabis story for tomorrow, or Canada story for tomorrow? Yeah, let's leave that for tomorrow. I got women in weed, which I want to make sure that I devote a good amount of time to and put that at the beginning of the show. I didn't quite get to that one today. And like I said, this is an article, the women in weed article that I want to go over and discuss with a little bit is an article from last August. It's important to point out that this industry is gaining attention in a different way than a lot of industries with who's owning these businesses and who's the front runners and who's lobbyists and all this great stuff that's happening. There are a lot of women that are in places where in other industries it's completely men. And that's a cool thing. It's a great thing, obviously, if you're a woman, but to not only be a change in reform of cannabis laws, a reform in drug laws, it's awesome that you could set an example in that with women being in industry. Say women owning businesses, women owning these huge, huge companies. It's never been something that I've ever looked at a woman as being lesser than a man. Mom raised me. I lived with my mom. I don't even think my dad would have been this way, but because I still think he had a lot of respect for women. And bottom line is, my mom taught me that, you know what, it just never became an issue. It's never something that was around. It was like, oh, women can be less this or women are less than that. I don't know. It's decent upbringing, I guess you could say, when it comes to not hating other people for just some stupid reason. I guess you could say their skin color, race, if you're gay, shiz like that. I don't know. Never was an issue in the household. Which is good. All right, I think we're done with today. I got my fix. Hopefully you got your fix too. Hopefully it was a listenable show. It wasn't just completely stony and crazy and farked and out there. I enjoyed it. Sometimes I think back and I'm like, man, you really needed to relax more in that show, or you really need to relax more to be a really good DJ, or you need to think of things more creative, or just be yourself a little bit more when you're on the mic. And I agree. And sometimes I hate myself for not doing it more. And I'm like, God damn it, I'm really trying to get from point A here to point B and learn and grow. It's just, I guess you just get into these growing pains, these growing hiccups. You know? Sometimes shit just doesn't happen as fast, as quickly as you would like it to. It happens. It's life. And then other times I'm like, man, I unlocked the secret here if I could just combine it with this thing right over here, which if you combine today's show and yesterday's show together, it would be this perfect monster of awesomeness of JDR News Live. Anyway, big thanks to weedbiz.net, our good friends over there. Your Graphics, URGRAFIX. On Facebook, holler at them if you need to get a web design or you need something graphic designed. They do that shiz. That's why they're called URGRAFIX, Your Graphics. That would be weird if they did machining or something like that, you know? And they were called Your Graphics. It just wouldn't make any sense. meh. And big thanks to usacannabis.consulting. You can go online, usacannabis.consulting. Fantastic name right there. Play on words for the website, just like our website, johndorad.io, John Doe Radio. All recordings are up at johndorad.io, by the way. But again, thanks to our friends, USA Cannabis Consulting, USA Cannabis Company. Holler at them, tell them JDR sent you. Until we meet again tomorrow, which will be a Friday, the 18th of December, the actual premiere day of Star Wars. Which, again, if you just want to ruin people's lives by spoiling Star Wars before anybody even gets to see the fucking movie, I mean, spoiling it before it even really comes out open in theaters, what the hell is wrong with you? Nothing bugs me more than somebody who spoils something on Facebook, like when Breaking Bad finale happened. Hell no. Shut down everything until you watch that mamma jamma. Walking Dead spoilers? Hell no. I'm glad I watched Glenn get fucked up. That was kind of a spoiler there too, but it was one of those things that everybody spoiled it, so I, got past the point. Anyway, Walking Dead, whatever. There's a special place in hell for them bastards. It really is. It's just this burning, growling, spitting of fire hell for people that spoil shiz like that. Hopefully your Star Wars experience is not spoiled. Hopefully you have a fantastic evening or day or whatever it is you're listening to us with. And yeah, it's good times. I'm John Doe. Till we meet again tomorrow. Have a fantastic day. Did I say that already? Or have a good night. Can we make it a little more uncomfortable? I don't know. Come here for a hug. Can I get a hug? All right. Here's a hug. All right. I feel better. Till we meet again tomorrow. See ya.
The John Doe Radio Show is produced by Cannabis Entertainment. The John Doe Radio Show programming is not limited to, but includes information and humor on agriculture subjects and is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. We specifically include responsible marijuana reform. Besides, listening to anyone but your mother is just plain stupid. We accept no responsibility for your actions or misrepresentations, and we do not fully endorse the use of illegal drugs. You are ultimately responsible for yourself.
Live.
Waka waka.